My father wasn't taking me away to protect me. He was selling me off to pay his debts. And the woman I once called my aunt was the dealmaker. Ruthless, cold, ready to drug me into obedience if I dared resist. With no one to trust and every door closing around me, I had one chance. A desperate message to a long-lost uncle who might not even remember me. Part 1. The day I turned 17, my father, Hank Wallace, sat me down at the kitchen table. His face was pale. No cake, no gifts, just a straight look and 5 words that made my heart stop. "You have 1 month, Callie." I blinked. 1 month for what? He folded his arms and looked away, like he was ashamed but too far gone to care. "To marry Victor Malinoff, or he'll collect the debt some other way." My stomach flipped. I wanted to laugh, thinking it was one of Dad's sick jokes, but his eyes stayed cold, flat. "You're not serious." "I am," he said. "Victor's been patient long enough. He's willing to forgive all of it if you marry him." "How much?" $300,000, and interest is piling up every day. My heart dropped. I always knew Dad had a problem. Cards, dice, bets he couldn't afford. But I thought he could handle it. Apparently not. Before I share what came next, the choices I made, the truths I uncovered, I want to know where you're watching from. Please, hit subscribe and leave a comment with your city. Your stories, your voices, they matter. And if you've ever been betrayed by your own family, maybe my story will feel familiar. Victor's name clicked like a bad memory. I had met him once, 3 years ago when I was 14. He came over for what Dad called a business dinner. Back then, I didn't know what business meant. But I remembered Victor. He was huge. The kind of man who filled a room with his presence alone. Broad shoulders, yellow teeth stained by cigarettes, and a thick Russian accent. His eyes followed me too long every time I passed. And when he asked about my school and whether I was dating, Dad laughed nervously and changed the topic. Now I knew why. The marriage contract was already written. I'd have to live with Victor, be his wife, have his kids within 2 years. I sat frozen, staring at the table. In my head, I planned what I would say to the police. Maybe I could... Dad laughed suddenly, loud and cruel. "Don't bother. Victor's got people everywhere, cops, judges, neighbors. You tell anyone and you'll only make things worse." That was the scariest part. Not the threats, not even the marriage. But how calm he was while selling his own daughter like a cow at auction. Then he grabbed my phone and smashed it against the wall. "Just making sure you stay focused," he muttered, before walking off to bed like nothing had happened. At 3 a.m., I tried to run. I crept outside, barefoot, shivering in my pajamas. The car wouldn't start. I ran to the garage, locked. The nearest town was 8 miles away. 8 miles feels like 80 when you're 17, scared and alone in the dark. The next morning, I woke up to find locks bolted on the outside of my bedroom door. "Just a precaution," Dad said with a smile, sipping his coffee like he hadn't turned my room into a prison. Only one person was allowed to visit me, Victor. At first, he pretended to be decent. Called me his future wife, held my hand, touched my shoulder. But as the days passed, his hands lingered longer. On my arm, my back, my thigh. He'd sit close and whisper how many kids we'd have, his fingers digging into my skin like he already owned me. I'd glance at my dad. He'd just nod, smile, approve. The worst came one night while I was cooking dinner. Dad and Victor were at the kitchen table. Dad left to use the bathroom. That's when Victor called me over. I kept my eyes on the pasta, pretending I didn't hear him. But his voice turned sharp, and I knew I couldn't stall. I walked over slowly. He reeked of whiskey and smoke. He whispered, "A pretty thing like you like it from behind?" I couldn't breathe. Then my dad walked in. "How are my 2 lovebirds?" He beamed, walking to the oven like nothing was wrong. I ran upstairs and locked myself in my room. I cried until my body ached. 10 minutes later, the front door slammed, and Dad stormed into the house. "I can't do this," I whispered, voice shaking. "You should be ashamed of yourself." He cut me off. Victor is saving us, Callie, and you're ruining it. Please, I begged. I'll work. I'll get 3 jobs. I'll eat once a day. Just don't make me marry him. But all he said was, my word is final. Then he slammed the door and locked it from the outside. After that, I stopped eating, stopped bathing. There was no point. I prayed Dad would drop dead from a stroke. Then I'd feel guilty. Then I'd feel angry for feeling guilty. It was a never-ending circle. 3 weeks left. That's when Aunt Mira showed up. She was Dad's younger sister. I hadn't seen her in years, ever since she left after some family drama no one ever explained. That night, she pulled me into the kitchen. I know what's going on, she whispered. I stared at her, not sure what to believe. She leaned in closer. When I was your age, Hank tried to sell me too. My heart nearly stopped. She said she'd been watching everything from afar, through our cousins. Said she couldn't stay quiet anymore. That she had a plan to get me out. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Mira started sneaking me food. Distracted Dad whenever she could so I could have a moment to breathe. She gave me a small phone, hidden in a book, told me we'd leave the next night. That night I couldn't sleep. I crept downstairs for water and past the guest room. I heard her voice. She was on the phone. Yes, Victor. She trusts me completely. She'll get in the car tomorrow, no problem. My blood froze. I pressed my ear to the door. She has no clue. Tell Hank I want my $50,000 cut of the trust fund. That was our deal. The glass in my hand slipped, but I caught it before it shattered. It didn't matter. My heart had already broken. Aunt Mira had been working with them the whole time. The escape was fake. The hope was bait. I wasn't being saved. I was being delivered. I stepped away from the door slowly. The wood floor felt ice cold under my feet. My hands were shaking so badly I had to put the glass down on the hallway table. The same table Mom used to decorate every fall. It stood there solid, steady, mocking me. Everything I believed was a lie. I was truly alone. Part 2. I crept back upstairs, heart pounding so hard I was sure someone could hear it. My mind raced, zigzagging through every possible plan, only to crash into dead ends. I took the stairs slowly. I knew which ones creaked. Years of sneaking out had taught me the safe spots. Aunt Mira's voice floated from the guest room, falsely warm, still talking on the phone like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I could hear her pacing, the floorboards groaning beneath her weight. Each step she took sent another crack through my trust. Once inside my room, I locked the door. The small click didn't mean much. The real locks were still bolted on the outside. But somehow, I needed that tiny sense of control. My fingers lingered on the cold metal, the steel a reminder that I wasn't home. I was imprisoned. I sat on the bed. The old quilt Mom made before she died was still there. It used to comfort me. Now it just felt like a lie. I thought about the trust fund. Of course. It all made sense now. After Mom died, Dad said the money from her life insurance was caught up in legal red tape. Said it would take years to access. I believed him. I was stupid. He'd been using it like bait, dangling it in front of anyone willing to play his dirty game. Aunt Mira had taken the hook, and now I was the prize they passed between them. I picked up the cheap burner phone she gave me, the one that was supposed to save me. It felt weightless in my hands, fragile, just like the illusion she built around me. I scrolled through her texts, looking for anything out of place. Most of them were to me. Sweet, supportive, carefully crafted. How are you holding up, sweetie? Remember, I'm here for you. They filled the screen like poison dressed in comfort. But then, I found it. A number she had texted multiple times. The messages were deleted, but the number remained in her recent contacts. A mistake, a breadcrumb. I waited. I listened for her door to close. It did, with a soft but definite thud. Her bedroom door always echoed through the hallway like a warning bell. I dialed the number. Once, twice, then his voice. Rachel is late. This better be important. Victor, that thick Russian accent, sharp, annoyed. I hung up immediately. My hands shook as I pressed the screen to end the call, my stomach twisting with nausea. Acid rose to my throat. How long had they been planning this? Was anything she told me real? The tearful story about her own arranged marriage? The soft words of understanding? The promises to protect me? It was all a performance, a script. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of my room, arms around my knees, trying to find a way out of this trap. The moonlight came in through the window, casting striped shadows across the floor. They looked like prison bars. I wasn't imagining it anymore. I was a prisoner. If Mira thought I still trusted her, I'd use that. I'd let her believe her lies still worked. I'd play along. But first I needed proof. Something solid. Something no one could twist or deny. Because if I ever got the chance to run, I'd need more than just my word. Morning came fast. She knocked on my door like she did every day, cheerful and fake. I heard Dad unlocking the door, each click like a countdown. Mira stepped inside, carrying a tray of breakfast. Her smile made my skin crawl. She wore makeup, carefully done, too perfect. "Big day today," she said, placing the tray on my desk. The smell of eggs and toast made me sick. "You nervous?" I nodded, pretending. Like I was grateful. I thought back to every school play I'd ever done, every fake smile I'd ever practiced. I gave her one now. "Thank you for everything," I whispered. "I don't know what I would have done without you." She smiled, then hugged me. Her perfume was sweet and cloying, overpowering. Her arms wrapped around me like vines, squeezing tight. "Family looks out for family," she said. "Now eat up. You'll need your strength." After she left, I stared at the food. It tasted like sawdust. I forced down enough to keep up the act. Then came the hard part, getting into her room. She never left her phone unattended. Dad was always watching me. But luck, or something close to it, arrived just after lunch. Mira went to shower. The water started running, loud and constant. Dad was in his study, talking to Victor on the phone. I could hear his voice, low and serious, muttering about routes and timing. I slipped into the guest room. Her phone was charging on the nightstand. No password. Reckless. Or maybe she just didn't think I had it in me. I went straight to her photo gallery. My fingers moved fast, my hands shaking as I snapped pictures with the burner phone, text exchanges with Victor, discussions about my value, mentions of my physical condition, like I was livestock. Bank transfers from Dad to Mira, dozens of them. The total was more than I expected. Much more. Then the smoking gun, an image of the trust fund paperwork. The number $50,000 circled in red ink. That was her price for selling me. And it didn't stop there. There were texts from unknown numbers. Names that sounded Russian. Payment reminders. Threats. Mira was drowning in gambling debt, just like Dad. Only she used a different excuse to justify it. The room spun. My breath came in gasps. But I kept going. Screenshot after screenshot. I was building my case piece by piece. Then a voice behind me. "Find what you're looking for?" I froze. Spun around. There she was. Aunt Mira, standing in the doorway, wrapped in a towel. Water still dripping from her hair. Her face calm, almost amused. I stood, clenching the burner phone behind my back. "I was just—" "Save it," she cut in. She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. Slowly. Deliberately. "You heard me last night, didn't you?" There was no point in lying. I nodded. She walked to the bed, sat down casually, and adjusted her towel like she had all the time in the world. "You don't understand the full situation, Callie," she said, her voice smooth. "Your father and we're not evil, we're just desperate." I said nothing. The people we owe, they're not the kind you can just avoid. They don't accept excuses. They don't care if you're family. "And Victor?" I asked, voice cracking but steady enough. "He's not so bad?" She tilted her head. "He'll take care of you. He's powerful, rich. He'll give you everything you need." "He's 43, I snapped, "and he wants to use me to pump out children. At least 4, according to Dad." She sighed like I was being unreasonable. Plenty of women marry older men and are perfectly happy. You'll have a big house, money, servants to help raise the kids. That's more than most girls your age get. I stared at her. A golden cage is still a cage. She didn't like that. Her expression hardened. The fake warmth vanished. Well, it doesn't matter what you think, she said flatly. Tomorrow we're getting in the car together. You think we're going to the bus station, but we're not. My blood ran cold. We're going straight to Victor's estate, she said. You can go willingly, or we can do this the hard way. Part 3. What's the hard way? I asked, even though every nerve in my body screamed not to. Aunt Mira smiled, and the expression she wore was nothing like the warmth that used to greet me at childhood holidays. It was sharp, calculated, a slow baring of teeth like a jungle cat just before the kill. Her eyes glittered with cold satisfaction. Victor has a doctor friend, she said casually, as if she were commenting on the weather. The kind of man who writes prescriptions without asking too many questions. Very helpful, very discreet. I didn't move, couldn't breathe. You'd be surprised how easy people are to steer with the right pharmaceuticals. A little something in your orange juice may be stirred into your tea. And suddenly, she clapped her hands softly, like finishing a magic trick. You're walking down the aisle with a smile on your pretty little face, saying, I do like it's your own idea. My blood ran cold. I could practically feel the imagined chemicals sliding down my throat, rewiring me from the inside out. This wasn't just coercion. They were willing to erase me, turn me into a mannequin that nodded and obeyed on command. If you won't play along willingly, Mira went on, stepping closer, we'll make sure you do play along. Either way, Victor gets his bride, Hank gets his debt wiped, and I get to stop babysitting. Her eyes narrowed, and her hand stretched out. Give me the burner phone. The game's over. I didn't hesitate. I placed it in her palm. Let her think she'd won. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd already sent the photos, the texts, everything I could find on her phone. Evidence of the arrangement, of what Victor expected, of the lies they'd told to set this whole nightmare in motion. The message had gone to the only person I could think of, Uncle Brian. He was my father's older brother, a quiet man who never had kids of his own, who used to send birthday cards when I was little, always with some legal quote scribbled on the inside and a $20 bill tucked behind it. He worked as a paralegal in a small firm 2 states away. We hadn't spoken in years, not since Mom's funeral, but I remembered his email. It had been printed on the return address label of every envelope he'd ever sent me. In a dark corner of the bathroom, earlier that day, I had typed the message with trembling fingers. Subject, please help me. Uncle Brian, it's Callie. Hank is selling me to pay off his gambling debts. He's marrying me off to a man named Victor Malinoff. I'm attaching proof, texts, photos, phone logs. Please, please help me. I don't know who else to turn to. I hit send, stared at the confirmation screen, and buried the phone behind the sink drain, where it would never be found. Good girl, Mira said now, her voice dripping with condescension. Obedience looks good on you. Go to your room. We leave at 9 tomorrow. And don't do anything stupid tonight. Victor has men watching the house. She left with a little click of her heels on the hardwood. The sound stuck in my ears like a countdown. Dinner that night was unbearable. The dining room, already small, felt suffocating with Victor in it. He sat beside me, too close, his hulking body crowding mine in the chair. His hand slid onto my knee beneath the table, thick fingers curling around it like a vice. He squeezed once, then again, harder. A reminder. I kept my eyes on my plate, but the pressure on my leg made me flinch involuntarily. Hank and Mira carried on like it was any other family dinner. They laughed about high school memories, about fishing trips, old teachers, football games, like they weren't plotting to sell me like property, like I wasn't being handed over to this monster across the table from me. You're quiet tonight, little bird, Victor rumbled, his breath heavy with wine and cigar smoke. His hand squeezed harder, right on a bone. Excited for tomorrow? She knows, Mira said without looking up from her steak. She sliced through it with practiced precision, like a surgeon. She heard me earlier, on the phone. The clatter of Hank's fork hitting his plate shattered the conversation. He looked up sharply. "What?" he asked, his voice stiff. She overheard. "It's fine," Mira said with a wave of her knife, casual as ever. "We discussed it. She understands now. Don't you, Callie?" Victor's grip on my knee was turning unbearable, his fingers bruising. I could barely breathe. This was no longer theoretical. The ceremony would happen, with or without me conscious. And now they weren't even hiding it. "This changes things," Victor said, his voice lower now, more calculating. "Maybe we move up the timeline. Ceremony tonight." "No," Mira snapped. And for the first time, something like stress flickered across her perfect mask. "We stick to the plan. Too many arrangements have been made. She's not going anywhere tonight." Then she turned to me and her expression was pure ice. "Are you?" I shook my head. My voice didn't trust itself to come out stee. After dinner, they added more locks to my door. I heard them drilling well past midnight, metal scraping against wood, screws biting into the frame. I lay on my bed, frozen in place, as the sound echoed around me. They were sealing me in, reinforcing the cage. No more bathroom breaks alone. No more freedom to even pretend I wasn't a prisoner. The illusion was over. Above me, the ceiling bore the faded shapes of glow-in-the-dark stars I had stuck up there as a kid. Most had fallen. Just a few ghostly specks remained. My mom used to lie beside me and help me count them. Now they watched over me like cold sentinels unable to intervene. Tomorrow, they'd take me to Victor Malinoff's estate. The wedding, if you could call it that, would happen. Legal or not, consensual or not, unless Uncle Brian got my message. Unless he opened that email. Unless he cared. Too many unlesses. Dawn came too soon. Gray light filtered through the blinds like fog, heavy and colorless. My door clicked open at exactly 8 a.m. Aunt Mira stood in the frame already dressed, her navy blazer buttoned tight, pearls at her throat. She looked like someone you could trust. That was her gift. "Shower, then wear this," she said, placing a white dress and a garment bag on the chair. "Victor wants you to look presentable for the drive." I didn't respond. I simply moved, mechanical, hollow. The shower was lukewarm, barely enough pressure to rinse the conditioner from my hair. I dried off and stared at the dress. It was white, modest, knee-length with lace at the collar. Something you'd wear to a rehearsal dinner. Or a funeral. My funeral. Downstairs, Hank was pacing the kitchen, running his fingers through his thinning hair in uneven rhythms. "Maybe we should just do it here," he said, glancing toward Victor. "Judge Morrison still owes me a favor. We could get it over with." "No," Victor replied, not looking up from his phone. "This happens my way, in my home, with my people present, legal, witnessed, final." "She knows the plan," Hank muttered. "What if she tries something?" Victor glanced up then, his stare flat and unblinking. "Then we handle it." He tapped a few buttons on his phone. "I've got men posted along the highway. If she runs, they'll catch her. If she tries to signal for help." He let the silence finish his sentence. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just a family secret anymore. It was organized, watertight. Mira appeared with a plate. "Eat," she said simply. Toast and coffee. Dry, scratchy, flavorless. Through the kitchen window, I saw her silver rental parked in the driveway. It looked so ordinary, clean, professional. The kind of car a real estate agent would drive. Perfect for smuggling a girl across state lines. At 9:00 sharp, Victor checked his watch. "Time to go," he said, already moving toward me. He gripped my arm hard, his fingers digging into soft skin already bruised from last night. "You ride with Mira. I'll be behind you." His eyes bore into mine. "Any problems, and things get very unpleasant. Understand?" I nodded, jaw clenched. Say it, he barked. I understand, I whispered. He smiled, the way snakes smile, then leaned down and kissed my forehead. His lips were damp. I nearly gagged. The walk to the car felt like a funeral procession. The concrete cracked beneath my sandals with every reluctant step. Hank stood on the porch, watching. No goodbye, no guilt. Just that same greedy look on his face, like he was already counting the zeros. No flicker of the man who used to chase me through autumn leaves or lift me onto his shoulders during fireworks. Just a shell, a coward in a father's skin. I climbed into the front seat beside Mira, buckled the seatbelt. The click was deafening, like the final lock turning in a cell. Behind us, Victor's black SUV rolled into position. We pulled away from the curb. I looked back at the house, shrinking smaller in the side mirror. The place where my mother read bedtime stories, where I built blanket forts and hung Christmas stockings. I wondered if I'd ever see it again. It's a 2-hour drive, Mira said calmly as she turned onto the main road. We can put on music if you want. Make this pleasant. I stared out the window. The park slid past. The library. The little corner store with the bell over the door. My world. Fading. And ahead, only uncertainty. Only Victor. Unless Uncle Brian got that message. Unless he believed me. Unless he was coming. Too many unlesses. Too little time. And now, only silence. Part 4. We'd been on the road for barely 20 minutes when Aunt Mira's phone rang. The sound made me jump, sharp and unexpected in the quiet tension that had settled between us like fog. She tapped the screen to answer, and the Bluetooth system lit up the car's speakers with a crackle. "Brian?" she said, voice rising slightly, caught off guard. "How did you—" My heart stuttered. "Yes, she's with me." "What? No, that's ridiculous. I'm just taking her shopping for her wedding dress." My pulse hammered against my ribs. Uncle Brian. He got the message. He checked that dusty old email address after all. The one I'd only ever seen printed on the return envelopes of childhood birthday cards, back when he was just a distant name in a family filled with louder voices. He believed me. He believed me. "What email?" Mira snapped, her tone turning sharp, her knuckles whitening on the steering wheel. Her professional mask was slipping. She glanced at me in the mirror like I was something venomous that had slithered into the back seat. Brian's voice came through, calm but firm. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught enough. "You don't understand the situation," she hissed into the phone. "Hank's debts are his problem. I'm just here to support Callie during a stressful time." Then she paused, froze. The blood drained from her face. "You called who?" That single word fractured her entire composure. Her mouth snapped shut for a beat. Then she spat. "You shouldn't have done that, Brian. You've put us all in danger. You have no idea what kind of people you're dealing with." She ended the call without waiting for a response, and immediately dialed another number. Victor Malinoff answered instantly. Even over the car's system, I could hear the string of Russian curses pouring out of him like boiling oil. I didn't need to understand the words to grasp the rage behind them. "How the hell does he know?" he barked. "She sent him pictures," Aunt Mira snapped. "Screenshots. Everything." There was a moment of silence as the implication settled in. "Where are you?" "Route 47, just past the water tower." "Pull over at the gas station ahead. We transfer her now. She rides with me." Mira's jaw clenched. She slammed her foot on the gas and the car surged forward. "You stupid little girl," she muttered, her eyes flashing toward me in the mirror. "You've just made this so much worse for yourself. You think Victor was harsh before? You haven't seen anything yet." The gas station loomed ahead, its bright signage cutting through the overcast morning like a lighthouse, and I realized this was my only shot. If Victor got his hands on me again, I'd disappear for good. As Mira slowed to turn into the station, I unbuckled my seatbelt. The click echoed through the car like a gunshot. "Don't even think about it," she growled, reaching back, but I was already moving. The instant the car rolled to a stop, I threw open the door and bolted. My shoes skidded against the asphalt. The rough surface scraped my legs as I stumbled, but I kept running. I heard her scream behind me, the slam of a car door, the thunder of Victor's boots pounding pavement. Still, I didn't look back. The gas station door wasn't far. I aimed for it like it was a finish line. But Victor was faster than anyone his size should be. I didn't make it. His arms wrapped around my waist like steel cables. My feet left the ground. "Stupid girl," he hissed into my ear, his breath sour with smoke and bitterness. "Now I'm angry," I screamed. I kicked, thrashed, anything to break free, but it was like trying to fight a brick wall. "You will learn obedience," he growled. "You will obey." He dragged me back toward his SUV. The world spun. My throat burned from screaming. A few people near the gas pumps looked over, but no one moved. Just another ugly domestic situation, they probably thought. Not their business. One man even turned away deliberately. That's when I heard them. Sirens. 2 police cruisers came flying up the road, lights flashing red and blue, tires squealing as they skidded into the station lot. Victor froze. His grip loosened just enough. I dropped like a stone, hitting the asphalt hard. Pain shot up my knees and palms. "Get in the car!" he roared at Mira. But there were more sirens now, more flashing lights. Another set of cruisers boxed them in from the far side. There was nowhere left to run. I collapsed fully, shaking uncontrollably, barely able to breathe. An officer, female, mid-30s with gentle eyes, knelt beside me. "Are you hurt?" she asked, keeping her hands visible, her voice calm and soft. "Are you Callie Wallace?" I nodded, trembling. My father, Hank Wallace, he sold me. To cover gambling debts. They were forcing me to marry him, Victor Malinoff. The words spilled out in jagged pieces, half choked with sobs, half raw with disbelief that I was even speaking them out loud. I felt something snap inside me, the dam holding back days of fear and violation finally cracking. The officer helped me to her patrol car, while her colleagues dealt with Victor and Mira. He fought, of course, screamed about his lawyers, about powerful friends who would fix all of this. Mira tried to play the martyr. "She's troubled," she insisted. "She's lying. She's a teenager acting out." But they weren't listening to her anymore. At the station, I told them everything. I showed the screenshots I'd taken, the messages, the threats, even the bank transactions I'd glimpsed when Mira left her phone unlocked by accident. Photos of the locks on my door, of my bruised arm. And then Uncle Brian arrived. He looked exhausted, like he'd driven all night without stopping, which he had. "I got your email around midnight," he said as he pulled me into a tight hug. He smelled like black coffee and something familiar I hadn't realized I missed. Family that cared. "I'm so sorry, Callie. I should have checked in after your mom passed. I knew Hank was spiraling, but this..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. He hadn't come alone either. A lawyer named Sarah Chen accompanied him. A quiet, observant woman with sharp eyes and a calm presence that made me feel safer than I had in months. "The evidence you've provided is damning," she said. "We're talking about attempted human trafficking, false imprisonment, conspiracy to commit forced marriage, and possibly more. They're not walking away from this." "What about my dad?" I asked. She exchanged a look with one of the detectives. "There's a warrant out. They'll find him." They did. 3 hours later, they picked him up at a bus station near the Canadian border, trying to cross with a suitcase full of cash and fake IDs. Turns out, he'd been planning to disappear after the wedding. He'd skimmed from Victor for months, hoping to vanish before the fallout. His betrayal ran deeper than even I'd guessed. The days that followed were a blur of statements, medical exams, interviews, and court filings. I learned more about Mira than I ever wanted to. Her story about escaping a forced marriage in her youth? A lie. A performance meant to earn my trust. She'd gambled away her inheritance, owed money to the wrong people, and saw me as an opportunity when she heard about Hank's debts through the family grapevine. She hadn't just been complicit. She'd done this before. I wasn't her first victim, just her first failure. The trial moved fast. Victor Malinoff was sentenced to 15 years for attempted trafficking, coercion, and conspiracy. Mira, Aunt Mira, got 10 for her role in the plot. Hank Wallace, my father, received 12 years, plus extra time when the financial crimes surfaced during the investigation. For a while, I lived with Uncle Brian and his wife, Patricia. Their home was warm, but cautious. Patricia was kind, though she handled me like I might shatter. My cousins, whom I barely knew, didn't know how to talk to me. I was that girl, the one from the news. "You can stay here as long as you want," Uncle Brian told me one night, sitting on the porch steps beside me. "All the way through college, if that's what you need. You've got a home now." I thanked him, but I had other plans. While reviewing the paperwork during the investigation, Sarah Chen found something everyone else had forgotten. My mother's life insurance policy had a clause. If Hank committed any crime that led to my harm, the payout bypassed him entirely and came straight to me. $300,000, with interest. I used some of it to finish high school through an accelerated program. The rest? I set aside for college. I decided to study social work. I wanted to help kids like me, ones who had no one, who were trapped in places they couldn't escape alone. The day I turned 18, a letter came from prison, from Hank. I didn't open it. I didn't need to read excuses, apologies, or twisted logic. I just marked it return to sender and moved on. Because I survived, and that was the ending he never expected me to write.